There's a certain kind of silence that follows you into adulthood. Not the peaceful kind. Not the kind that feels like a deep breath after a long day. No, this one feels hollow. Like something's missing. Something you can't name, but you can feel. It's the silence that sits beside you in a crowded room. When you're surrounded by people, yet somehow feel like you're watching life from behind a window. It's there when you succeed and feel nothing. When you fail and feel everything. That silence? It's the sound of a childhood you never fully got to live. People think childhood is something you grow out of, but the truth is, you grow around it. You carry it. You build a life on top of it, even the broken parts. It doesn't vanish at 18. It just hides behind your habits, your fears, your reactions, and the way you attach, the way you apologize for existing, the way you hustle for your worth, the way rest feels illegal. Your lost childhood doesn't disappear. It becomes the root system of your suffering. When you were little, you weren't just learning how to read or tie your shoes. You were learning the emotional rules of survival. You learned who you had to become to feel safe. You learned which emotions were allowed, which needs were too much, how visible you were allowed to be before love disappeared. And depending on what your world looked like, you either learned that your feelings mattered or that your feelings were inconvenient. You learned that your voice was welcome or that your silence kept the peace. And if you learn the latter, a part of you begins to quietly disappear. Maybe you became the responsible one, the child who acted like an adult. Maybe you became the quiet one, easier to love if you stayed small. Maybe you became the entertainer, keeping everyone laughing so nobody noticed the chaos. Whoever you became, it wasn't random. It was your armor. Your survival strategy. Your way of saying, if I can't be loved as I am, then I'll become whatever keeps me safe. But the cost of becoming what the world demanded was abandoning who you actually were. Those parts of you you hid, they didn't die. They just waited, like unopened letters addressed to the person you were supposed to become. That's why, as an adult, you can feel anxious in perfectly calm moments, lonely even when people love you, empty even when life looks good. Because your mind doesn't measure fulfillment by success. It measures fulfillment by wholeness, by how aligned you are with the child you once were before fear entered the room. When you lose touch with that child, you lose more than innocence. You lose wonder. You lose softness. You lose the ability to rest, to play, to forgive yourself. And so you work harder, achieve more, compete with ghosts, chase approval like oxygen, trying to earn the love you didn't get back then. But the ache never leaves, because the goal was never to become more. It was to remember who you were before the world taught you to be less. Psychologists have known this for decades. Childhood doesn't shape your memories. It shapes your nervous system. If affection was unpredictable, your brain learned to anticipate loss. If the emotions were ignored, you learned to numb yourself. If love felt conditional, you learned to perform. These patterns kept you safe as a child, but slowly become prisons as an adult. You learn to suppress emotions, but now you can't feel joy. You learn to overachieve, but now rest feels like guilt. You learn to self-sacrifice, but now every relationship feels draining. The walls that protected you now keep you from connection. And here's the thing most people never realize. A lost childhood isn't just missing experiences, it's interrupted development. Moments when you needed support, safety, comfort, and didn't get it. Those unprocessed emotions, they don't fade. They recycle. They show up in your triggers, in your fears, in the way small things feel bigger than they should. A small rejection feels catastrophic because it echoes every time you felt unwanted. A mild criticism cuts deep because it carries the weight of every not good enough. The body remembers what the mind tries to bury. Adults who struggle with emptiness aren't broken. They're unfinished, trying to complete a story that childhood left halfway told. So you try to fill the emptiness with work, with relationships, with noise, distractions, scrolling anything that feels like movement. But you can't outwork a wound. You have to listen to it. You have to ask the child inside you, what did you need that you never received? Maybe it wasn't luxury. Maybe it was being seen, being allowed to cry, being loved without conditions, being told that mistakes don't make you unworthy. And until you give yourself those things now, you'll keep searching for them in others. You see this everywhere. People who fear abandonment but push others away first. People who crave affection but pretend they're fine. People who achieve everything yet feel empty inside. Because the lost childhood doesn't disappear. It just learns to wear adult clothes. And maybe you felt it. Those moments where your reaction doesn't match your age. A tiny disappointment breaks you. Someone's silence feels like danger. Peace feels unfamiliar. That's not immaturity. That's memory. That's your inner child still waiting for closure. Neuroscience shows why healing feels confusing. Your body is responding to the past, even when you're standing in the present. You're not soothing your adult fears. You're calming the scared child you once were. And the paradox is this: the more you run from your past, the louder it chases you. The only way out is through. The only way forward is inward. You don't have to believe in spirituality for this to make sense. This is biology. This is psychology. This is the quiet science of being human.
But here's the part people rarely talk about. When you finally stop running, the first thing you feel isn't peace, it's grief. You start seeing all the moments you missed because you had to grow up too fast. The birthdays you barely remember, the times you wanted to speak but stayed silent, the joy you traded for duty. This grief is sacred because it's the first time you're sitting with your younger self instead of abandoning them again. There's a concept called reparenting. It means becoming the adult you needed back then. Not blaming your parents, not rewriting the past, just giving yourself now what was missing then. You start talking to yourself differently, not "what's wrong with me?" but "of course I feel this way." Not "I should be over this," but "I'm allowed to heal at my own pace." Not perfection, but patience. Not suppression, but listening. That's where real healing begins. Not with judgment, but with permission. Permission to rest. Permission to exist. Permission to feel. People forget that safety isn't something you find. It's something you create. In the way you speak to yourself. In the boundaries you set. In the things you walk away from. In the softness you allow back in. You're not a project to fix. You're a garden, a growing thing. Different seasons, different needs. Blooming, shedding, resting. Not linear, human. Children have this effortless curiosity, this raw wonder. They see magic in puddles and sunlight and shadows. That's what you lose when you lose your childhood, the ability to be amazed without permission. But when you reconnect with your inner child, life becomes textured again. Music hits deeper. Colors feel richer. You start noticing small joys, like you're waking up from a long sleep. That feeling? It's not nostalgia. It's recognition. It's your soul remembering itself. Most of your adult struggles aren't new wounds. They're old wounds with grown-up disguises. Fear of failure? Fear of disappointing someone. Fear of rejection? Fear of being unloved. Perfectionism? A desperate attempt to be worthy. Once you trace these patterns back to their roots, they stop controlling you. You start choosing instead of repeating, responding instead of reacting. There's a moment in healing when you realize your parents were children once too, carrying their own wounds, passing down what they knew, even if it wasn't enough. Forgiveness isn't letting them off the hook. It's letting yourself off the hook so you don't spend your life carrying their unhealed story. You can honor what happened without living inside it forever. That's how generational pain ends. There's something deeply human about longing for the child you used to be, the one who believed anything was possible, who laughed without shrinking, who felt without apologizing. That child isn't gone. They're waiting. Behind the exhaustion, behind the cynicism, behind the layers you built for safety. And when you finally notice them again, you might cry, not from sadness, but from reunion, from finally seeing yourself again. Healing your lost childhood isn't a single moment. It's a conversation, a slow return, a long exhale after years of holding your breath. And slowly, the ache softens. The fear quiets. Your reflection becomes familiar again. You stop needing validation. You stop seeking love in wounds. You start choosing relationships that feel like peace. Even solitude becomes gentle because you're no longer alone. You're whole. Healing won't turn you into who you were before the pain. It will turn you into someone wiser, someone softer, someone strong enough to hold both sorrow and joy without collapsing. You may not ever get back the childhood you lost, but you can build the adulthood that child deserved. A life with gentleness, with creativity, with boundaries, with rest, with truth, with laughter that doesn't hide anything. That's how you honor your younger self, by giving them the life they always needed. Build your adulthood the child deserved, a life with gentleness, with creativity, with boundaries, with rest, with truth, with laughter that doesn't hide anything. That's how you honor your younger self, by giving them the life they always needed. So if you feel lost, empty, restless, don't rush to fill it. Sit with it. It's not absence. It's an invitation, a whisper from the deepest part of you, saying, I'm still here. I've been waiting for you. Healing isn't a journey outward. It's a homecoming, a return to yourself. And one day,
You'll look in the mirror and see all the versions of you, the child, the teen, the adult, standing in the same body, no longer fighting each other. You'll realize the life you've been searching for was never somewhere else. It was always in you, waiting to breathe again. And finally, the silence changes. It's no longer emptiness. It's peace. The kind that comes when the war inside of you finally ends. The kind that says, you made it. You're whole. Welcome home.